I am Cesar Toro, the head of the IOC of UNESCO Regional Subcommission for the Caribbean and Adjacent Regions, IOCaribe, Cesar Toro. I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar, the Ocean InfoHub in the Latin America and the Caribbean node. And as well, I would like to congratulate all of you with today's World Ocean Day. So welcome to our webinar. And we are going to have a very packed agenda with the different issues concerning the Ocean InfoHub project in Latin America and the Caribbean. So without further ado, and welcoming all of you, muy buenos días a todos. I would like to hand over to our chairperson who is going to share the entire meeting today, our colleague Federico Nogueira Saravia. So please, Federico, I would like to hand over the moderation and share of this webinar. So welcome, Federico. The floor is yours.
Good morning, you all. Thank you, Cesar. It's my pleasure to introduce Navy Captain Ariel Troisi from Servicio de Hidrografía Naval de Argentina and current chair of IOC, who will welcome you all. Captain Ariel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Muito obrigado, Federico. Muy buenos días para todos. Feliz Día Mundial del Océano.
Good morning, everyone. Happy World Ocean Day. To me, it is a true pleasure to be with you this morning. Well, it's the morning time for me, but probably we are all in different locations. And for some of you, it is already in the afternoon. So it is a pleasure for me, as I was saying, to participate in this webinar about the Ocean InfoHub in Latin America and the Caribbean. When I was thinking about the remarks that I wanted to make for this opening speech, I remembered an old saying that we had in our intergovernmental agency at the beginning of the decade of 2000. So we had guidelines for marine technology transfer. And so there was a cleaning house mechanism in order to achieve technology transfer. And the technology transfer included access to data, so information, hardware, software, models, expertise, experts to help us develop training capacities as well. And it was a mechanism that allowed us to have access to all of these possibilities to make progress together. So by 2019, thanks to the collaboration with the project Marine Atlas and its second stage, we were able to present the first prototype for a clearinghouse mechanism, which was focused on what we already had in this region, because much of this data already was available. It was scattered, but what we needed was to create a platform to unite all of these resources and gather all of this information in the same place. So we were able to do this through our collaboration with the Caribbean Marine Atlas in the second stage. And this was also due to the work carried out by Indamar in Colombia. By the year 2020, and of course, we need to thank the government of Belgium and the Netherlands, we were able to launch the InfoHub with 3 focus areas, small island states in the Pacific, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And in the case of our region, we had a comparative, let's say, advantage because we already had this previous experience with the mechanism that had been developed. So there had been previous steps that allowed us to advance and achieve something that is similar to what we need and that requires some work. So during the same time, when all these discussions were taking place about all of these developments and initiatives, simultaneously, negotiations were being carried out at the United Nations in New York about the legally binding instrument for the preservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. We also talked about the need to have a clearinghouse mechanism in place. So the OIC is in this context considered one of these providers of clearinghouse mechanisms, because what we have been doing jointly is precisely establishing this type of mechanism. A few months ago, about 5 months ago, when this year started, we began with a new initiative, which was designing ocean sciences for sustainable development led by the United Nations. So the main focus that we have is access to information, capacity building, and all of these are overarching needs. Our mechanism, InfoHub, provides all of the tools necessary to meet these overarching needs. So I would not like to take more time from this wonderful webinar, but I would like to warmly welcome all of you to this event. And I am looking forward to the experts' presentations, and I will also monitor the questions that you are making through the Q&A functionality in our platform very closely. And I am looking forward to reading all your comments and inputs, which are so important to all of us. So thank you very much, and I will give the floor back to the chairman of this session, Federico. Okay, thank you, Ariel. Thank you for your kind and encouraging words.
We will start presentation concerning OIH project itself, that is very well managed by IOG under the guidance of Lucy Scott, who I have the pleasure to handle the floor. Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Federico, and good day to all our participants today. Buenos dias para todos. I have a short presentation today on the Ocean InfoHub project. It's an overview of the project as a whole. To start with, for some who haven't heard of the project before, the IOC Ocean InfoHub project is a global initiative to improve access to marine and coastal data and information. It's a 3-year project that commenced in April 2020. The project is funded by the Government of Flanders, Kingdom of Belgium, and the main objective is to develop interoperability between existing information systems, thus improving the flow of information to end users. The objectives of the project are firstly to link a network of hubs that will be able to exchange data and information, thus contributing to the transfer of marine technology by enhancing shared scientific and technical capacities to render a wide range of data and information products and services available. The project will develop a proof of concept for an underlying ocean data and information systems architecture together with partners in a co-design process. And the project will develop regional or thematic end user communities of practice to promote and foster awareness and collaboration with established organizations and systems, providing information, connecting contributors and users with the resources to support their efforts. We have 3 related initiatives: the Ocean InfoHub project, the Ocean and Data Information System Catalog of Data Sources, and the Ocean Data and Information System. ODISCAT currently describes over 2,000 online sources of marine and coastal data in 16 categories, so we are working in a very complex environment. These 3 projects are very closely linked. The Ocean InfoHub project has developed the first phase of the architecture underpinning ODIS and is concerned with involving user communities and establishing proof of concept of ODIS. The Ocean InfoHub project will first work with global IOC-associated online resources. These include Ocean Expert, Aqueducts, the Ocean Best Practices System, the Ocean Biodiversity Information System, and the World Ocean Database. This is extended by partnerships with Euroocean, MarineTraining.eu, IMODNet, other regional partners, and new partners from the ODIS catalog of sources. The initial data types that the regions have identified as important and for which we are developing patterns initially include people and institutions, documents, spatial data and maps, training opportunities, vessels, and projects. And these are also categories of information from ODIS-CAT. We have 3 pilot regions: Africa, Pacific Small Island Developing States, and naturally, this region, the Latin America and Caribbean region. These 3 regions have participated in the development of the Ocean InfoHub project proposal and will take a lead on pilot projects to test interoperability between existing information hubs in the region. And of course, Ariel mentioned the clearinghouse mechanism for the transfer of marine technology, and we'll hear more about that later today in the proceedings. This schematic shows some examples of existing data and information hubs at national, regional, or global scale. A global ocean data and information system architecture will be developed to enable interoperability between these local, regional, and thematic infrastructures. This will be developed with willing and able Ocean InfoHub early adopters in a process of co-design. The architecture is based on lightweight schema.org implementation patterns. Although anyone can implement ODIS, and it can be used independently of any IOC system, we will be developing a global search hub also as a proof of concept or global demonstration of this ODIS. Some services that may be offered include finding specific expertise, finding vessel-based training opportunities, peer-to-peer collaboration, finding data and information or spatial data or metadata. These services are all in support of the IOC capacity development strategy. The project will focus on the transfer of local knowledge, supporting early career scientists, and on remedying gender disparity by increasing access to information, technologies, and opportunities. The project also assists countries in their reporting requirements for the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. The project will also assist countries to report on ocean science capacities through the Global Ocean Science Report. Some of our achievements to date include that we have an active technical working group. This uses GitHub, Slack, and meeting platforms. We currently have over 70 members from all over the world and over 2,600 posts in our discussion forum. We've developed documentation for the ODIS architecture for all 6 of the priority themes, and this documentation is available online. We've also developed proof of concept for the ODIS architecture, with a search, for example, demonstrated to return results from 3 systems: marinetraining.eu, Ocean Expert, and OBIS. In addition, we have and continue to support 3 regional communities of practice, implementing 1 or more of the initial patterns. And we have developed a website and are increasing visibility and interest from around the world. So in conclusion, the Ocean InfoHub project will facilitate better access to global databases, but also better visibility of national and regional data holdings. Regions and countries can learn from each other. Africa, Pacific, and Latin America and Caribbean regions all have success stories that are useful to share with other regions. The development and implementation of the project in ODIS will be fully based on co-design. So we are seeking participation of a wide range of partners and end user communities that are involved in the sustainable use and management of marine areas. So we welcome involvement from additional partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy. Congratulations for your words. And now we'll start with the second presentation of today. And I will start saying that INVEMAR has been a very important partner in developing this Ocean InfoHub project. Then I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Julian Pizarro, jefe del Laboratorio de Servicios de
He
Información
is head of the information lab, the information services lab and information coordination for the marine and coastal management of Colombia. So go ahead, Julian. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Just one moment. Okay, Julian, would you want us to share your screen for you? Okay, sure, thank you.
Adelante, por favor.
Okay, you can go ahead, please.
Como mencionaba anteriormente, el doctor,
Well, as I was saying, well, as
tenemos en cuenta que en el 2019
our previous speakers were saying, in 2019,
un piloto del clearinghouse mechanism
a pilot for the clearinghouse mechanism was implemented in Latin America, where several issues were encompassed, and we also
de las
focused on several initiatives that had been developed in the OIH. So there was a platform which was co-created, and it allowed us to gather information about several topics. Our main goal
de esta iniciativa
Our main goal for this initiative,
sería poder lograr que esta plataforma
the
sea
OIH, is to have this platform work as a bridge, let's say, between sources of information in order to share information or present it in our main portal for Ocean InfoHub. Next, please.
¿Cómo lograríamos esto? Entonces,
Okay, so how would we achieve this?
recolecta información
So
de
the OIH LAC gathers data about training, education, geospatial information,
embarcación
information from experts, from investigation or research vessels, rather. So we would want to use
una de las
this
fuentes de
platform as a source of information for the Latin American and Caribbean region to incorporate it into the OIH
aquí,
portal.
como podemos ver las temáticas que manejaría o que maneja el
Here,
CHMDAC,
it is possible to see all of the main topics that we would cover. So we have information from experts, documents, training, laboratories, institutions, geospatial information, and vessels. But here we are not only talking about information that we collect directly, or rather that the data providers in the region provide this information directly, but this system would also have several strategies in place to gather information from sources which we believe could have relevant information,
el CHMLAC y que luego
and it could be directly gathered by the OIH in the Latin American Caribbean region and then shared with the other regions. So how does this work? We can identify the data sources. The data sources will be registered or set up within the OIH LAC. Then we will run processes to extract data using any of the mechanisms that are supported. So right now, we can collect information directly from a website through a web scraping process. We can scan the content of the website, and whatever information is deemed to be relevant will then be extracted and stored in a CSV format.
Que tienen habilitado la posibilidad de interoperabilidad con otros
And
sistemas.
also, all of those providers that have activated interoperability will be able to share the information. So all of this data will be integrated into the OIH databases, the CHM databases rather, and search engines in the portal can be used in order to find specific information. There are also interoperability services
Consulta interoperable de
through
información.
API. So this is about API-driven research. And our main purpose is to enable this type of search in the ODIS architecture. Later on today, you will learn about how this works. But this will allow us to collect information from the Caribbean and Latin American region, regardless of the format that the documents have. So all of the information that is gathered that's not in the appropriate format for ODIS will also be shared with the Ocean InfoHub global portal using the architecture needed to collect this type of information. The main feature supported by CHM-LAC right now is thematic search. So there is a very detailed list of information. There are several different languages that are supported. The interface is now available in Spanish and English, but the content does depend on the provider. So depending on what language the provider of the information has made it available. So there are also specific filters that can be applied for each of the topics. There's information available in different ways, and there's access to web services for interoperability and access from mobile devices as well. So this is the URL, the basic interface that you see when you access the website. So there's a landing page with all of the main tabs. This is how you would visualize it through a computer or a mobile device.
Esta es la interfaz para poder, donde listamos cada uno de los contenidos, por ejemplo.
This is the interface where you have a list of content. So this is a list of experts that have participated by providing information, and we can also run a search process based on the content that's available. This one is about geospatial information, where the data is collected through metadata from the geospatial services provided by these groups or these companies that have access to spatial information as well. So upon searching for this information, you will be able to find several different categories. So you can apply filters to find specific information, and you will have a list of how many resources were found for each of these search criteria that were specified. So in the search field, you are able to run very specific searches about anything that you wish to research. And so you will have hits or several results for each category. So that would be all. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Julián.
Thank you, Julián.
Following, we will have the presentation of Mrs. Audrey Hassan. She's a physical oceanography. She's a physical oceanography and head of the GEO Blue Planet European office at Mercator Ocean International, sorry. She will talk about Sargassum Hub, a very important project for OIH. Andre, you have the floor.
Thank you, Federico, for a very nice introduction. If the moderator could, okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So yes, as Federico was saying, my name is Audrey Hassan. I'm a physical oceanographer, and I'm the head of the European office for GeoBlue Planet. GeoBlue Planet, the GeoBlue Planet initiative is the ocean, and if you go back, sorry, the ocean, yeah, GeoBlue Planet is the ocean and coastal arm of GEO, the group for Earth observation. Yes, if you can change now. And I would like to thank you very much. Thank you, the OIH, for this invitation. And I'm filling in today for Emily Smail, the director of GeoBlue Planet, because she's on leave, and I will be giving this talk on her behalf. Next slide, please. So first of all, the sargassum, once confined to the Sargasso Sea, the sargassum, which is an algae, is now present across the Atlantic Ocean. Sargassum inundations are marine life ecosystems, and it disrupts recreation and fishing, costing local communities millions of dollars. Measuring and mitigating the impact, if you can go back, sorry, I will just say next when I change. Measuring and mitigating the impact of sargassum revolves around the information that needs to be integrated together. So first of all, on this diagram, you'll see in situ, because it's where it all started, right? It's local communities in the Caribbean finding more and more sargassum around their islands. And as sargassum spreads across the Atlantic Ocean, remote sensing became key for monitoring the movement of sargassum across the Atlantic Ocean. We have also forecasting, which is based on a numerical model, and it's essential for anticipating different inundations. And of course, we always need science at the bottom right of the left, sorry, of the graph, to understand better the impacts of sargassum, but also to work on ways to mitigate, mitigate sargassum, like using sargassum as a resource and then turning around the challenge of sargassum into opportunities. And finally, we have management. That's where we have people doing mitigation across the Caribbean countries, but also in the Atlantic. And we need them to learn from each other, and we need them to collaborate to efficiently mitigate the sargassum challenge. From this observation, if you can change slides now, a consortium was put together under the demand of IOC Caribe, together with GeoBlue Planet, the initiative that I'm representing today, but also Atlantos and the Air Center. We have put together a website where users can find all type of information. I will put the link to the Sargassum Hub in the chat after my talk. And on this hub that was put together, you have information on everything I've just talked before, so science, mitigation, monitoring, forecasting, and so on. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. So you have this, if you click on the monitoring tab on the website, you'll end up looking at this information. And first of all, you have some monitoring information where you can download and submit actually data on sargassum. We have different people producing data and information. Sorry, I just can't see my slide anymore. Yes. And if you go to the next one, you will also be able to access bulletins and reports. You have bulletins in English from the US, from the USF, but also from Guadeloupe, from France, and from CERMES. You will also be able to access viewers and forecasting systems, and once again, from all these different institutions as well, so from the NOAA, NASA, as well as CERMES and CLS. So basically the hub here serves as a single focal point where to access all the information you need on monitoring sargassum. If you go to the next slide, please. You will also have under the tab of management this little information system where you can actually find protocols and guides for managing the sargassum. This is done together with the ocean best practices of the IOC. So if you type in there sargassum management or anything else, you will find all the best practices document that exist regarding sargassum or actually any other topic. If you go to the next one. And so we have this site that is up now, but we are still working on it. We are trying to bring in additional partners. So you can see a map of the different sargassum projects that exist in our database. And you can see that we have many different projects across the Caribbean regions, but we don't have any right now in the African region. And we're working right now in bringing additional partners from different regions, but also from different fields, such as the mitigation partners, like startups using sargassum to make leather or to make paper or fertilizers and so on, because we need these people to work together with scientists to make their product more efficient. We'll be updating the directory of the different projects. We'll be also working on building country and regional pages, because we need all these pages to be in a language that everyone can understand, or in languages that everyone can understand. And we need specific country pages to put forward all what the national institutes are doing in each region. We'll be also integrating freely available monitoring products. So that's another thing we're trying to do, is to get scientists from right now the US and France to give us access freely to the monitoring and forecasting product that they're delivering. And we want to be able to show them directly on the website without going through their own viewers. So users can use one or the other depending on their needs. And then another one that is the last one that is the most relevant one here, I guess, is to explore further linkages with the Ocean Information Hub through the IOC. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. That's the website here. And I think Cesar did put it in the chat for me. So thank you, Cesar. Please send us any questions you have on the Sargassum Hub. We'll be happy to reply to that. And also you can go on the website and put your projects in it, and we'll be able to interact this way as well. So thank you very much again for the opportunity to talk today.
Thank you, Audrey, for your clear and didactic presentation. And now it's time to hear about the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem and Training Portal. Dr. Edgar Cabrera will provide us with this important information. Dr. Edgar Cabrera is a senior consultant for IOCaribe for marine meteorology, oceanography, and maritime affairs. Dr. Cabrera, you have the floor.
Muito obrigado, querido amigo comandante Frederico.
My dear friend, Commander Frederico.
And I will do in Spanish, as is my mother language. Gracias por la invitación.
Thank you for having me. I'm ready to share the information regarding the training and capacity development portal developed within the framework of CLME+, the CLME+ framework. It is one of the largest Caribbean marine ecosystems of the coast of Brazil. This program was implemented through the United Nations Program for Development in Cartagena de las Indias, which is the seat of IOCaribe. The project started operating in December 2020. It was a joint effort through IOCaribe, UNESCO, 2 years of work, and we had the assistance of the University of Ghent, providing the marine training for Europe. This is a theme portal, one of the 5 theme portals within the EU theme program to provide not only training data, but capacity building training as well for the Great Caribbean throughout the two regions of the two major ecosystems with coincide as a long-term contribution of the CLME Plus and cooperation with other initiatives as the UN Ocean Decade and the InfoHub, which is the Western Tropical Atlantic. Next, please.
Para la consolidación de las diferentes categorías.
Let's talk about how the different categories have been consolidated. They revolve around 6 major projects, which are on the screen. Each one of them have a series of subcategories. They are all grouped up throughout UNESCO. And the purpose is to find keywords related to the different subcategories. Next. Content management. There are 3 major parts: the program of programs, the formal academic programs, pre and postgraduate studies, short trainings provided by the different entities related to the project, and in the case of the sub-theme portal for the Caribbean, the main events promote different meetings and webinars. Let's talk about using the tool. This is a great opportunity as to promote training and to find out what other training packages are available. And there are 4 types of users. You can access the portal without having registered, but the recommendation is that you do register because you will have access to more information. You can also contribute with information which will be submitted to an editing process and portal management. In the Caribbean, the manager is EU Caribbean and the editor EU Caribbean and the Central region. The current status, it's fully operational. This is a screenshot of today. There are 198 entities available to share information out of 38 countries throughout the region. Future actions. We have carried out significant effort, but data maintenance is the most important part. So we invite you, if you're interested in contributing with information, please do so you can improve our opportunities to share in specific training and capacity development. The beneficiaries of the project were initially the NGO and government entities, academic entities that were enrolled, but it is also open to everybody who's interested in marine affairs and training. Next. How to contribute. This is an open invitation. You can register at the link below. This link will provide you access to the portal, and you can also register to contribute with whatever information you deem appropriate. The contact information is also on the screen, the IOC of UNESCO Regional Secretariat for EU Caribbean. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you have a great ocean day, a great ocean decade, so we can all overcome the challenges. Obrigado, thank you, gracias, merci.
Muchas gracias, Edgar.
Thank you very much, Edgar,
Clara y muy
for such a clear and such an informative presentation.
enseguida,
Next,
we will hear about a very important project named Ocean Data and Information System, for which the OIH is a tool of paramount importance. For that, we will hear Dr. Pierluigi Buttigieg from the Helmholtz Metadata Collaboration, Geomar Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research in Germany. He will provide us with the information concerned. Pierluigi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Federico. Welcome all, and I'm very happy to give this presentation on the Ocean Data Information System, or ODIS, which is a sister project of the Ocean InfoHub, but also aims to connect other services and systems in one collective ecosystem, as we call it, or a digital commons. And the scope of the ODIS, as you will see, is to provide a framework that all of these wonderful initiatives around the world can better connect to one another, so you don't have to choose one. When you query one or when you use one, that service will be able to check other services and see what they have and what they can do. It's at the beginning phase, but we've already tested the prototype and it looks good. Looks like it will work. So I'll give you a conceptual overview of the ODIS approach and the ODIS project. So I'll begin. Here we go. Good. So in brief, again, the background and the reason that we think we need something like ODIS, it starts that we have so many things to choose from now, even within our regions, but also across regions. There are many very large infrastructures emerging in the Latin American context, in the European context. The Australians also have wonderful portals, and it's just getting more complicated, too complicated for someone to register in all of them. And it's also very difficult to maintain each one of these solutions in a way that they can talk to each other. So that's the situation we're faced with. We have wonderful resources, but they tend to be disconnected from each other. There are sometimes isolated projects or isolated events with some data sharing, especially around communities that have standardized their data very well. Then it becomes easy to share across these infrastructures. But there are so many more data sources that have not yet standardized globally. And it would be very important for these systems to know that other systems have digital holdings or digital assets that correspond to those topics. So we need a kind of digital glue to stick together all of these systems without building another system. That's something we were very careful not to do. We don't want to build another database or another hub. There are many very good ones already, but we need to stick them together a little bit better in a neutral context. So in the IOC UNESCO context, it's a very good place to be because it has this trans-regional character and a bit of a diplomatic nature that helps us bridge these digital divides at the moment. To reiterate, we firmly believe that there's not going to be one project or one system, one hub, one portal that's going to do everything. The world is complicated, but we must make sure that the ones that are doing parts of the challenges we face in the ocean and sustainable development, they can talk to each other very, very well. And we must make sure that that link is sustainable, that it's not just something done for one project or because of one injection of funding. It has to be sustainable both financially in terms of capacity, and there should be enough training to allow everyone in every region to participate in ODIS, or rather to become part of ODIS. So that's the idea, and that's why we need this ocean data and information system, where all of the existing assets are part of the system. ODIS is not something other than the collection of existing assets, but glued together a little bit more efficiently, especially around the UN focal areas concerning sustainable development and the UN Ocean Decades objectives. Right, so that's our mission, that we want to build a sustainable, as I described, financially in terms of training and capacity, so that no one region needs to depend on another region for this. Interoperable in a very real sense, so that if I query one system, that system can pass on that query to another one just to check who has what. You know, maybe the Europeans have some data here, maybe the Pacific region has data that's useful for a Latin American challenge. And this idea of digital ecosystem is quite important. I'll go into that a little bit. This is not a metaphorical term. We mean this quite literally. It's a technical term that we'll talk about soon. And indeed, it has to be inclusive for all stakeholders and rights holders. It can't simply be something that the high capacity or the mid capacity or the lower digital capacity nations are particularly well suited to run. So how do we do that? Well, we have to create some technology that's very robust, it's simple and it's robust, that it can be set up in systems and moderated by IODE, so it has that international character where we hear the needs of the different regions, the needs, the constraints, the capacities, and we find a good balance to make sure that it can do as much as it can while not leaving people behind. And that is what's going to help us persistently interconnect all the stakeholders in this group. Otis, again, made up of all of these component systems, will be linked together by a digital architecture called Otis Arc. So the architecture that helps them glue themselves together. That will be based on schema.org, which you will see in subsequent presentations and interventions. So that already has wide permeation in the market. People know about schema.org. It's part of Google Dataset Search. Lots of people want to implement it anyway. So we're making sure that we're using something like that to be able to connect these nodes in a way that's a little bit more regulated for the ocean space. Importantly, once we have that, IODE or anyone else, and that's the beauty of it, anyone else can do anything that anyone else can do. It's not an exclusive system. You can check on the health of the system to say, is that server still operational? Does that portal still supply that data product? And it can be checked much more quickly and also automatically by machines. Right. So back to that term digital ecosystem. This emphasis on digital ecosystem is the socio-technical system. And again, it's quite organic, it grows. It's like a natural thing in a strange way. Things come and go. We don't really know, we can't really plan for everything that comes into it. So we must be ready that things will organically develop, but there still needs to be some kinds of connections and rules of how that happens. And I'd like to emphasize this term, the socio-technical system, with the emphasis on the socio part. The technology is there. We've had technologies to link stakeholders together for a long time. There were brilliant ideas. The hard part comes with actually agreeing between humans and technology developers how we should implement things. And that's where we hope to help catalyze in Otis something simple enough that the conversations don't get too detailed or too highly specialized that people can't join them anymore. So that's one of our main focuses. So the concept is, again, that it's this e-environment that we will all build together, just stabilized by some bridging technology, where anyone can discover information, services, data, digital assets provided by member states through Otis and through Otis architecture. Right. It's very important that anyone that's participating in Otis, all of the nodes in the system, the components of the system, should be independent, that Otis doesn't tell them how to run their business, how to run their data services. There are very good reasons why people build their technology the way they do in their region, and we don't want to interfere with that. But there must be a way to project what they have internally outside in a way that everyone else knows what it is. The same way that we have interpreters for this webinar, it's much the same principle. It's not a new idea in data science by any means, but the way that we're implementing it, I think in the IOC, UNESCO, IODE context, is gaining traction. I think we found the right balance of things. Right. So in summary, we are not building a hub. We are not building a central hub with Otis, but what we are doing is attempting to use the web as our collective hub, where all of the components can decide what they would like to push and pull through the web using some light standards and easily implementable technology through Otis Arc. And it's important that anyone can then query this network of awareness, of knowledge, and build their hubs. They can pull in data and build a hub if they want to. And indeed, Ocean InfoHub is a demonstration that this indeed works. So with our partners that have connected into the prototype Otis right now, we can start to power Ocean InfoHub to show that we don't need to build a huge backend. We can already leverage what is there and create a new system that actually serves new needs and new capacities. That's the overall idea. This global linked data universe was a fluffy idea, but that's where Otis now is structuring that space to say, all right, this is how the UN systems can start talking to external systems around the world, as it were. And from this, it becomes easier to start developing or enhancing existing regional nodes, global hubs, whatever you'd like, thematic nodes, as we've seen with Sargassum. That's easy to plug in, and it can pull out more resources from other partners to increase its own capabilities without necessarily duplicating the work they're doing. It's more of a sharing and exchange, as in IODE's name, the data exchange part, rather than duplication, right? So it's important that it's alive, it's living. Everyone will have one or more niches or places in this digital ecosystem. They could produce data, they could be the first consumers, the secondary consumers of secondary products. But what this helps us to do by building something like Otis Arc is to actually map this ecosystem. Many projects always start with a mapping and a landscaping, and we hope to make that an automatic process in the future, that we don't need to do it, we don't need to worry about it in terms of reading and trying to hunt for things out there which are very difficult to find. This could be saying a quick query, who's in, who's already sharing through Otis Arc. The Otis catalog of sources will be able to tell you who is plugged into the UNESCO IODE systems at least. And hopefully that will grow again organically and does not need much human maintenance there. The big picture is that Otis is something connecting resources in the oceans during the UN Ocean Decade and beyond the UN Ocean Decade in parallel to it. And there are similar efforts going on with other agencies in the atmosphere for cities and in the terrestrial world. And as all of these digital ecosystems emerge for parts of our planet, that's how we can start to stick it together to come up with a much more interoperable digital biosphere. So the planet is the biosphere in our case. And that's what we're going to need to make the data flow flexibly enough to answer the big questions of sustainable development. Are our food systems resilient, the ones that depend on the ocean, and how do they connect to the land, etc. There are many questions that require complex data, which needs more sharing because it's beyond the capacity of any one project or nation to sustainably do that. And we hope that Otis can move that forward. So that's it. I'll leave you with that concept and happy to take questions on that front.
Thank you very much, Pierluigi, for your very clear and informative presentation. And I can say to you that we, the people who work from the OIH, will strive to collaborate with the other system in order to allow them to keep walking and get a full success of all its activities. Thank you. And from now on, we will see a short movie where Dr. Tobias Spears will present some working examples of all this. Dr. Tobias Spears is head of the Ocean Data and Information section of Fisheries and Ocean Ministry of Canada. Elsa, you will run the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ocean Data and Information System Architecture Demonstration. This presentation provides an overview of the Ocean Data and Information System Architecture, or Otis Arc, and its purpose. It describes the basic processes to implement OtisArc and how to leverage resources published via OtisArc. And finally, this presentation demonstrates some of the current progress on the development of OtisArc and its implementation using a data set from the Ocean Biodiversity Information System as an example. So to set the context, what is OtisArc? OtisArc is a lightweight architecture which follows best practices for data on the web. Essentially, it is metadata markup. It employs schema patterns based on schema.org, and the content is encoded as JSON linked data or JSON LD. And it leverages vocabularies that are already established in order to reduce duplication of effort and improving interoperability. And the approach we're taking is a co-development approach. So working to identify core schema patterns for resources. And we're doing that in partnership with implementation partners. So, you know, from the perspective of a resource provider, so whether it's a data set or other resource type, you know, OtisArc is really about metadata enrichment and implementation using an approach that is standardized and is recognized and really is driven for direct use via the web. So, what are we describing? The Ocean InfoHub project under the International Oceanographic Data and Information Exchange is currently focused on 6 core content types: documents, experts and institutions, spatial data maps, training, vessels, and projects. However, you know, the intent is to actually scale the architecture out, and previous work completed by IODE on the Otis catalog of sources actually identified 16 core resource types that were deemed to be of critical value. And the intent is that over time we'll be developing schema patterns for each of these types. The implementation of OtisArc focuses on 2 primary use cases. First is that of the resource publisher. So this is the group that is supporting content producers and undertaking the technical work required to implement OtisArc metadata markup. And ultimately, they're involved in the publication and hosting of that enriched metadata for broad reuse. The second use case focuses on resource aggregators. So these are the groups that are basically indexing that OtisArc compliant metadata content and producing and providing a federated view of published resources. And usually that will be through some lightweight search facility implemented as some form of regional or thematic node or hub. Both of these use cases are supported through the implementation and co-development of the schema.org metadata schema patterns, the development of lightweight search and indexing tools. The resource aggregators themselves are supporting the community by the implementation of regional and thematic nodes and hubs, which themselves can be indexed. And finally, between the Ocean InfoHub project team and in the broader data on the web communities, there's plenty of support available, whether it's hands-on, documentation, and training. The most basic implementation of OtisArc is comprised of a 3-step process and can be achieved with little more than a commodity web server. First, once the resource provider has created metadata for the resource being described, the resource publisher then needs to undertake the technical work to transform that to an OtisArc compliant format. And this metadata is then embedded in an HTML page that describes the resource. Once the process has been established for producing the OtisArc compliant metadata content and encoding that at the individual resource level, the next step is to basically advertise the list of resources that are available to be indexed by external resource aggregators. And that is done using something as simple as a sitemap, which is essentially just a list of indexable resources. Once the list of indexable resources has been established, this then needs to be advertised to resource aggregators for use in indexing and in downstream use. This can be done in one of two ways. First, the URL of the sitemap file itself can be provided specifically to known resource aggregators. But the more flexible approach is to essentially use something like a robots.txt file, which basically allows the resource publisher to point to the sitemap file and advertise that to pretty much any indexing service operating across the internet. Once this process is complete, then the resources are readily available for indexing and use in downstream portals and other facilities. Once the resource publication process is complete, these resources can then be used by resource aggregators. The resource aggregators will set up processes to scour the web for content marked up in a recognized form, such as OtisArc, and use this information to produce information graphs for query purposes. Indexing this content can be targeted, which means that the resource aggregator is looking at specific websites for content that can be indexed, or it may be non-targeted, which means that they're essentially scouring the web and finding whatever they can, and then using queries after the fact to evaluate the relevance. Many tools are available, open source tools or commercial, to facilitate the indexing process. The knowledge graphs produced as a result of indexing can then be used as sources of information for use in driving websites, APIs, and so on. Many tools exist to support the hosting and leverage of these generated information graphs. The following few slides outline some of the progress that is currently being made on the ongoing co-development of OtisArc and its implementation using a data set currently hosted in the Ocean Biodiversity Information System as an example. It should be important to note that this is demonstrating just a small subset of the Otis architecture. A website has been set up to demonstrate the use of OtisArc compliant metadata, and the underlying technology that is being developed for this site is available on GitHub and is intended to help new resource aggregators learn the concepts of content indexing, the query facilities, and to provide a simple set of tools that can be extended and embedded into an existing web presence. It's important to stress that the metadata that's being used to generate the index, which underlies this sample website, is also available to the world. So that would include other engines such as Google Dataset Search. And where Google Dataset Search is focused on data only, OtisArc extends this further into other content types, and it actually allows linking between different types of resources. Starting with the demonstration site, we can search for the word coral, and we will discover one of the data sets that was exposed by OBIS via OtisArc. If we then proceed to Google Dataset Search, and we search for the title of the first record that was returned when we search for coral, we'll find the same data set that was discovered through the OtisArc search portal, as well as OBIS. And what's critical here is that Google Dataset Search even extends a bit further and provides a listing of other sites where this particular resource has been harvested and advertised. The Otis architecture provides a lightweight approach for resource providers to significantly improve the discoverability of the resources without adding significant amounts of undue effort on the part of themselves or their resource publishing support staff. Much of the content needed to drive OtisArc is actually being produced, just not in forms not readily reusable by others via the web. And a modest investment in supplementing existing metadata and data publication pipelines can yield great returns. And consider participating in the World Wide Web of open data.
It's finished, thank you. Your microphone.
Sorry, gracias, Elva. We will now move for the last presentation of this morning. And then I start saying that nothing can be done if you don't know how to do it. It's because of that the capacity development and training is so important. Then I will handle the floor again to Lucy Scott, that will say something about the Ocean InfoHub training course. Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Federico. Thank you for the slides. This is a short presentation outlining the plans for training courses in 2021 in the third and fourth quarters of this year. Next slide. The Ocean InfoHub project, together with the Ocean Teacher Global Academy and other partners, is developing a training course at the moment. This will be delivered online. The first course will be in English, thereafter Spanish and French language versions. These will be delivered between September and December this year, repeated or extended next year. Next slide. The title of the course will be Implementing the Ocean Data and Information System Architecture. The course's central aims are to equip participants with a conceptual understanding of what ODIS is, why it has been created, and how it works. To equip participants with conceptual and practical understandings of the technical components of ODIS, including its use of schema.org patterns and web-based publishing and harvesting, and to provide participants with the tools they need to describe their metadata and publish it, or data. Next slide. The expected learning outcomes are an understanding of the Ocean InfoHub project, the Ocean Data and Information System, and an understanding of how to incorporate ODIS, schema.org patterns into existing online databases or websites. The target audience should have an understanding of JSON and the HTML document object model, and know how to configure extensions to their own web framework, if such a framework is being used. Next slide. The course content will include a high-level concept of the Ocean InfoHub project and ODIS, a general introduction to our use of schema.org, ODIS, schema.org patterns, setting up the standard publishing or contributing environment, harvesting patterns, and querying harvested material. Next slide. For more information about any of these training courses and opportunities later in the year, please subscribe to our mailing list or send me an email directly to be informed personally when the courses are announced. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy. You were great. You, in a few words, you have perfectly described the importance of the training and the importance of get all the people well acquainted with the project in order to make it succeed. From now, we have finished with the presentations, and then I will hand over the floor to Cesar Toro, who will coordinate a session of question and answers. Cesar, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Federico. And I would like to thank all the presenters and the speakers of the previous session during this session. So now we have the opportunity to ask questions, and as well as I will ask the different presenters and speakers to be ready to answer that live. We have a series already of questions that in the Q&A session, a panel that were answered directly by our fellow speaker, but I would like to ask them to respond to some of them live while we have time here. So I will start by just answering. Before we go, I would like to propose that we concentrate, first of all, in the general presentation on the Sargassum Information Hub, and as well as then into the, if there is any other question on the CLME training and capacity development portal, and then to focus on the package and answers to the different elements of the Ocean Information Hub for Latin America and the Caribbean project, and in general on the concept. So first of all, I would like to start by answering the question that Leo Brewster from Barbados asked. I would like to Audrey Hudson to respond to this question. Leo Brewster from Barbados is asking, how do you link with the Sargassum Hub as the Coastal Zone Management Unit from Barbados is interested in reporting from Barbados on Sargassum impact, etc.? So Audrey?
I'm not sure I understood the question. I'm sorry.
The question is, you understand? You haven't understand the question, or how Barbados can report in the Sargassum Information Hub about the impact on Sargassum, etc.
Okay, thank you, Cesar. So we're really close with Barbados because they have a really strong group working there, and everyone can go, Barbados or any other country can go on the Sargassum Hub and register their project on there. They can also add their guides to the Ocean Best Practices Hub as well. And they can always send Emily's mail or myself an email, and we'll have them participate in the elaboration of the hub, of the information hub.
Thank you, Audrey. I would like also to add to the comments that Audrey just made, is that in the framework and the structure, the architecture of the Sargassum Information Hub, we are also developing a country page, individual countries page. We have started already with Mexico, so and we will invite other countries to also to provide their and build. So we will build directly a country information page within our Sargassum Information Hub. So I will, as Audrey is pointing out, that we have a very strong group that is working at CIRMIS of the University of West Indies, Cape Hill campus, that is also working in general for the Sargassum and developing bulletins, etc., jointly with our sister organization, FAO. So I will invite Leo Brewster and the Coastal Zone Management Unit to contact directly us in the Sargassum Information Hub to start building directly the Barbados page that is already an ongoing development. So thank you, Audrey, and we continue with the questions, and I will invite Lucy to elaborate on the questions she answered directly in writing in the panel of question and answer. So if you would like to elaborate on your answers and pick up any of the questions that you would like to start with. Lucy, back to you.
Thank you, Cesar. And thank you, participants, for all of the excellent questions. I think a common question would be whether the recording and presentations will be available. And yes, they will. And I will share the link. I have shared the link in the Q&A, and I can share it in the chat as well, to the Ocean Expert event. And that will have the presentations on the calendar entry. as well as a link to the recording. We had a question whether the Ocean InfoHub effort will extend to all types of ocean data and information. And I did reply to that in text. And I mentioned that we decided to start with 6 categories of information, just to start with something manageable. And those were guided by our partners and our regions, as well as end users. However, this is just a start, and we do see the ODIS expanding and including all types of data and information in time. There was a response about how to join Ocean Expert, and I've entered the link into the Q&A. And then some more recent questions that I did not yet answer in text, but related to the training course. We had one that the training course is aimed at IT development staff. Could there be a course for technical or administrative implementation staff? And certainly this is something we can consider. The first course is planned for more of the technical side, but we'll certainly be responding to requests from regions and from countries. So please feel free to email me and Cesar and let us know what your requests and needs are, and we'll respond to those as well as we can and as soon as we can. Another question was, in order to participate in the training, what can be done apart from requesting or joining Ocean Expert? And the call for the training course is not yet out. So there's no action to be taken right now. As soon as the course is fully developed, we will put a call out widely for interest, and that will definitely go to all of the mailing lists, including the mailing list for the Latin America and Caribbean region. So I think just make sure that you're on our mailing list. It will also be information will be widely spread also through our website and partner websites. Thank you, Cesar. I think I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Lucy. I think that we have and we like to also to thank the speaker, because they were quite well sharp on time, so that allows us to move forward here in the Q&A session. So I would like just to give the floor for a short intervention to our colleague Edgar Cabrera, so he can highlight how the different people and institutions can join us for improving and promoting your own capacity development programs and activities, and even if you have any bachelor, master science, or any PhDs that we are in ocean science that you're willing to promote. So please, as well as any socioeconomic aspect of the ocean development, or in general development, and environmental development, is also encouraged to publish and to use our networks and any other portal, and to join us as well in the Ocean InfoHub for the Latin America and the Caribbean, or any other our thematic nodes like the Sargasso Information Hub or the Capacity Development and Training portal. So, Edgar.
Okay, gracias, César. En la presentación.
Okay, thank you, Cesar. Maybe the presentation was quite short. I didn't really talk about a motivation for this, but this is a very important development of this portal. So it stems from a greater, let's say a bigger portal, the European portal, and then for the marine training side, there's all the formal information about courses that are being developed worldwide relating to marine systems. So for the Caribbean project, this is more of a consolidation need that we have between these trainings, webinars, events carried out by several organizations and projects initiatives in the Caribbean that could be shared through our portal. So that is the main purpose. So I think that it is a simple process because there is already an inventory of about 500 programs that are already listed in the portal and about 200 institutions that have already been identified and are registered in the portal. But now what we need from all of you is for you to continue collaborating through the provision of information. So that is basically what I would like to say about this. I believe that the system is very simple. It's quite straightforward. So if there are any comments or questions from the Caribbean or the university, of course, we can share more information about how to provide this information and exchange it.
And we have I have a request for the floor from our colleague from Dominican Republic, IOC National Focal Point, Nina Lysenko. So if you, Elsa, could you please open the floor for Nina Lysenko so she can have the floor?
Yes, Nina, come on, please.
So, Nina, por favor.
Muchas gracias. ¿Me pueden escuchar?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes, the volume is quite low, but we can hear you. Okay, thank you everyone for this invitation. I would like to thank you for the fantastic content that was shared in this webinar, and I believe that the information provided was excellent.
Tengo necesidad de precisar.
I would like to clarify something. I really loved the presentation from Pierre and all of the participants, but the Otis approach, this ability to be able to bring together all of these efforts, to integrate them without having to repeat the effort done in each of the individual projects. And for us in the environmental ministry, we have carried out very specific efforts for data management when it comes to coastal and marine resources. We participate in the Caribbean Marine Atlas. We are active participants. But then how could we organize all of this experience, let's say, all of this accumulated information in order to participate in this global network that's being created? How can we organize all of our content and bring it to the portal? So I know that there is a technical side to it. It's also necessary to have an institutional structure in place. And we do have this need, and we are excited to participate in this global network. So I would like to know how we can save this effort by taking advantage of the project regional infrastructure that includes projects that we have already participated in. Or should we focus on the individual countries and have the countries connect to this great opportunity? So I think that we have already come a long way for in regional projects. So I would really like to make it clearer how much effort is needed from us. What should we do as a country, as a focal institution? What can we do regarding this specific issue, and what should be the regional effort in this case? I don't know if my question is clear. This is just a concern that I had. And I don't really need any specific speaker to answer this question. I think maybe all of you could have something to say about this, and we really appreciate what you have shared so far. I would just like to have some clarification. Thank you. Okay, thank you. for your question, Nina.
Hand over to Pierluigi, if you can, in a nutshell, respond the answer. And I will encourage also Nina to continue following us as you have been doing, and also to you have our emails addresses, so you can contact us with very specific questions. That, but I will give back to the floor to Pierluigi, so you can summarize what will be the actions that any particular data provider, or in this case a country who has a series already of activities and even those series of data and information, etc., that how they can connect to the global OSHA InfoHub.
So, yeah, I'll try to summarize that. So it's very encouraging to hear that there is already so much data around themes that you care about nationally or regionally. That's the most important thing for a global system, that you get that in order locally in your own house, so to speak, that this data is in good shape and ready to be transformed into different ways. So as Lucy said at the beginning, there are several themes that were identified by IODE, IOC, as the important ones to start the OTIS project with. So vessels, maps, experts and institutions, those are the important themes for data exchange. On those themes, our team developed these exchange patterns using schema.org so the systems can let each other know about these things. Now, we don't have all the themes we need. We know this. So one of the best ways to engage with us is to let us know what kind of data is most important in your region or in your nation or for your thematic interests. That way we will start to develop a theme for that once we understand your needs and also your capacities. You know, what can you deliver to the system and what do you need to pull from other stakeholders in the system? When we have those, we can start to develop these exchange patterns for the metadata, just again, for the systems to let each other know that they have this kind of content. I think that's the first step. After that step is done, after that connection is made, we can then start to see if there are lower level opportunities. Lower level means closer to the machine in this case. So are there common formats? Are there common file types, etc.? That comes later. The first thing is just to know who has what and what is it about. And the best way to let us know is just to contact us. If you have technical people, please, you can contact us via our code development. All our code is open. You can see it and modify it. And if not, please contact Lucy and we will connect you to our forums and our community of practice in our Slack space. And once we understand what is needed, we can start thinking about that and create more thematic content. I'll put a link to that repository inside the chat so you can see it and the themes that we have too. It's very technical, but again, if you have technical people, they'll understand that. If not, please contact us and we will then talk to you individually. We would love to have early implementation partners to explore things and to learn from the regions what needs to be done, because we don't know what needs to be done in your region.
Thank you, Pierluigi. And I think with that, we are really fast approaching the end of the 30 minutes of the hour. So we are, I see that we have also a series of other questions, especially one concerning the author's right once the, so I will encourage you, Pierluigi or Lucy, to answer in writing to Eric Salinas on his answer. I also understand that Carlos Torres would like to join us in this discussion. Thank you, Carlos, for your questions that has been answering in writing. And because of the time constraints, and we have been planning to finish just in time, so I would like just to give the floor back to our chairman Federico Nogueira for closing this webinar that we have been planning to finish at 10:30 Cartagena time. This is UTC -5. So I would like to thank all of you for your participation, and I will encourage and invite all of you to follow the Ocean Info Hub project in general, and in particular to contribute to the Ocean Info Hub project for Latin America and the Caribbean. That is for all the countries in both oceans in the project is dedicated to. So back to you, and I would like again thank to all of the speakers, and back to you, Federico, so you can close.
Bom, eu vou aproveitar o privilégio que me foi concedido.
This is a privilege I have to speak in Portuguese, to speak in my own language. I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity of uttering the final comments, because, you know, when you want to convey emotions, you have to speak in your native language. There's no other way to express emotion. So I do hope that the participants, the panelists already believe this, but I would like all participants as well to build within their DNA, because those of us who are starting the decade of ocean science, which it is not a UN decade, it is not an IOC decade. No, it's everybody's decade, because the health of oceans needs to be reestablished. So what does the Ocean InfoHub have to do with all this? The decade of science. You have to do science with data, with information obtained from data, which in turn have to come from observations, whether they're satellite or on-site observations. All these activities are highly demanding of human material and financial resources. Now, all this effort will render useless, that's the word, useless, if we are not capable of delivering, of forwarding the data to the users who will produce science and information. Hence, the importance of projects such as ODIS and the Ocean InfoHub, who are working and structuring themselves to bring the data to the final users, to the end users. So as from there, they can produce science. And that is the importance of these projects. Today, I want to first thank the IOC, the organizers, IOC, Caribbean, and everybody in the background, everybody in the backdrop making this possible. And I also want to thank our interpreters for their great effort of disseminating the valuable information to the best of their effort. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank you all for giving me the opportunities of sharing my words. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigado.